Microsoft Excel is probably the most used construction software that is out there. Let's face it, we use it for everything from cost reporting to even estimating to comparing subcontractor comparisons. Almost everything comes back to Excel at some point. And until now, the way we could use AI with that was to download CSVs, upload them to Claude, or copy paste tables, or just have Claude create entirely new spreadsheets and use it that way. That's just changed. Claude now lives in Excel and can do real work. And today I'm going to show you how that is genuinely useful for some construction use cases and actually change the way that you work in Excel. So for quick context, Claude for Excel launched back in October last year for the Max and Enterprise users only, and it was in a beta mode. And that version could read the workbook, it could modify certain cells and do some debugging with formulas. What's available now is different. So it's on every paid plan, including the Pro, the lowest level paid plan. You've got Opus 4.7 is in there too as a model picker. You can now upload PDFs straight in, and you can also run your own skills inside of Claude, which I think for the construction industry is huge. And it also works across Microsoft Word and PowerPoint too. So you can start in one app, like here in Excel, and actually get those insights taken across to a document. And there's a ton of other stuff you can do, particularly now that Claude skills can be called from inside Excel itself. So let's jump into the first demo. And the first thing I want to share is how you can use Claude to essentially debug your worksheet. So here I've got some example data for what it could be a potential estimate. And you can see these formulas as you would expect in any sort of quantity unit rate setup. But here, this is hard-coded, and that's obviously not going to update for when things change and could produce some errors. And you see down here, it's just the sum. So it's exactly what you would expect. And that would be a problem down the track. So what Claude or Anthropic actually has is its own skills that will be useful across a wide range of industries. And here is the audit one. So all it's got here is to audit this sheet or workbook and to fix any formula errors, broken references, and formatting errors. So obviously behind this is the skill itself. And all I'm going to do now is hit enter. And you can see here, what's new is you can go ask before edits or accept all edits. I have the accept all edits on here just because I have a backup of this document. So I'm not worried about it making any changes. Having said that, you can review a change log of things that it has done should you want to go back a step. So you can see it's given me some options. I mean, I've selected F14. That's not going to give me too many insights. So I don't want the whole workbook. I just want the current sheet. So I'm going to select that one. And that should analyze this sheet here and give me some insights on what are some potential errors, like exactly this one here where I have, it's just hard-coded, it's not part of a sum formula. And you can see here it's already going ahead and finding a bunch of other little errors that are in here, and that's completed. Super quick, super simple. So let's pull that out and we can see there's some circular references. Here's that hard-coded one that we're talking about. It's found that one and given me a suggestion of what to replace it with as well. And some other similar ones where the patterns are matched. So you could go through and double check that these errors do actually obviously exist in here and make those changes so that your workbook, your Excel sheet is actually correct. So that's demo one. Obviously, you can go very specific on what you want it to look for and really anything else from there. So I mentioned before that you can now run skills inside of Excel itself with Claude, and this is huge. So what I'm going to do is you can see a chat history here. You can go new chat, very much like you would get in the chat window inside of the Claude desktop app. So I'm going to go to new chat and it brings me back to here. And what I actually want to do is inside of Contractor OS, the link is in the description down below, is we have a subcontractor bid comparison skill. And what I've got is 3 trade for electrical package of a project, along with a request for quote that was sent out. And I'm just going to add in here a quick prompt that is essentially going through saying that what I just said with the 3 electrical subcontractor bids that I have, and a little bit of background on the project itself, and then I'm going to upload the request for quote as well as the PDF documents, a little bit of an idea of the package, and this here is where it should call the subcontractor quote analysis skill so I can get a comparison. I'm just going to drag and drop these files into here so it can kick that off, and I'm just going to start it now because this will take a little bit of time. So the PDFs I've uploaded here is the 3 quotes and the request for quote that was originally sent out. So each of these quotes obviously have a breakdown of pricing, and you can see that here. Now, if you didn't get a CSV and Excel sheet from them, it's very annoying to go and then add this to your own tracker sheet, your own comparison sheet inside of Excel. But what Excel can do now is actually take in that information from the PDF, read it, and then add it to its own tab. So you don't need to go in and copy and paste it. Plus, because it's got the background of context in terms of the request for quote, it can analyze and match the sections essentially between the quotes as well as back to the original request for quote that has gone out, so that everything lines up nicely and you essentially don't have to go through and do that manually. And you can see it has gone through, understand the packages here, and it's run through the subcontractor quote analysis skill to get an idea about what's involved. And now it is working through the different steps that are a part of that subcontractor analysis skill. And again, if you want to grab that, it's just down in the description below. Jump into Contractor OS, and there's a ton of other skills in there as well. And we have multiple calls each week now where you can get help on exactly the problems you're coming across when it comes to implementing AI in your construction business or just in your work in general. So I look forward to seeing you in there. Now I'll come back in a second once it's completed this. Cool, so now it's gone through and completed the skill. And as part of the skill, so you can adapt it to be your exact process, as part of the process, it spits out a number of tabs that you can run through. The first is the executive summary. So at a glance, what we can see with the quotes that have been uploaded. So we've got a quick summary of the overall risk, their scope coverage, adjusted total, and obviously the initial total as well, plus some key findings and clarifications we'll need before we can award it, and some of the trade-offs for the decision. So that's it in a snapshot, but we want to go a little bit deeper on exactly what it's done here. So now we can see the price comparison, and this is being pulled from the PDFs and obviously combined together so that we can get the insights we need and see things like the lowest, highest, and the spread out of that, as well as what each individual contractor had quoted for that. And you can see a lot of gaps in terms of Metro itself. And obviously that will all work its way into the analysis at the end there, as well as some notes. So that's the bulk of the sheet. Obviously you can check the upload by having the PDFs on another screen, making sure it's pulled all those across correctly, and go from there. And then the next one, it's got a bit of a summary of the scope exclusions that are in there as well, what's included, what's not. Again, because the PDFs have the inclusions and the exclusions, that is good context to be able to use to obviously make a decision and also confirm with follow-ups what is next. And the final thing here is the adjusted comparison. So what has actually been added back in to try and level the field in terms of getting the adjusted price out, and some of the commercial terms associated with that. Again, this is the benefit of being able to pull information from the PDF straight into Claude for Excel, and we can get a review like that. So obviously it's a skill, so if you don't like the way it's outputted, you can just change that. But that is the power of having a skill being able to run inside of Claude, is I didn't need to go into the Claude app, upload my 4 documents, have it complete a completely new spreadsheet. It can all be done in the same workbook and continue in that way. So now let's go to the next demo for how this is genuinely useful in construction. And I'm sure we're all familiar with pivot tables and how they can be a little bit painful to make. But now with Claude, and this is probably more of a rewire on how to use Excel, is essentially for things where you're a little bit unsure of what to do or how to do it, Claude can be your go-to to essentially get started and either giving you the instructions of what to do next or having it do it yourself. So I'm going to go new chat again, and I'm going to paste in another prompt, which is essentially what I want it to do is to build me 2 new pivot tables so that I can complete some analysis on the labor data we have here. One is hours by trade by week, and the other is the cost by trade by activity. So that's what I want to get some insights on, and I'm also going to get it to provide some analysis below so it can sort of jumpstart my own analysis as well. So again, I'm going to hit enter there now, and I've requested it do it in a new tab. So it should go ahead, create a new tab, and then pull together these pivot tables. Again, it could take a couple of seconds here. And also, when you're doing activities inside of Excel now, a good check is that if you do this a lot, and particularly if that you want a defined output and you're using something like your own estimating template, then one of the best ways to move forward now is actually to create a skill so that every time you want something like this done, you can just call on the skill and it will go through and do that, where all you need to do is quote the skill inside of the chat window here. Cool, so now it's gone through and completed that. And you can see the first time I went through that, it just gave me a regular table and a bunch of extra tables that I didn't want. So I just refined that and said that it needs to be, that it's not a pivot table, and I wanted just the table 1 and 2. So I went through, completed that, and then the formatting was not great, so I've just asked it to tidy it up. I mean, it could definitely tidy it up further in terms of bringing the columns in, but for this demo, that's completely fine. And also add the key findings back, because when I told it to remove the extra stuff, it removed that as well. But now we have these pivot tables here, and you can go through and obviously make the edits you want to go through with that. And again, like I was saying with the skills, this re-prompting, if it's something you're doing a lot, then you can really tailor the output and the workflow it goes through in a skill, because you can give it super detailed instructions to work through, rather than what I've just done here, which is essentially one prompt to try and get it to create exactly this, which it has done, but it's not the tidiest it could be, and it did take a couple of follow-ups. A skill would have essentially eliminated that, because we can give it the example output at once. So another great use case in there as well. Now let's jump into the fourth and final demo that I wanted to show today. So if we go into the cost report section here, you can see we have some of our cost codes and the budget, some change orders, current budget, what we've committed, spent to date, the forecast for final, and some variance there. So super useful numbers, as well as some notes alongside that as well, and some status about where we're at in the project essentially. So what we want to do now is I'm going to close our pivot table. I'm coming back to Claude. I'm going to go new chat again, and similar to before, I want to pull the insights from this for someone I could share with, say, the project director or something of that nature, with purely looking at the cost report here. So again, hit enter, and I'm still going skip all permissions in terms of it being able to edit the document. So now it will go through and pull out these insights, look at the reasons why. Again, if you add more context to this on where the project's at, some more project stacks, like maybe a risk register and things like that, it's going to pull through much more detailed insights into where these cost overruns are coming from, even potentially some of the things we can do about them, and also maybe provide some insights as to why they're happening that you may not have thought about. So as you can see here, it's given us a summary of the cost variances and where we're at and why. So you can see that the structural one is because the steel price escalation. But now I've changed my mind. I actually want this in a Word document that I can share. So what I'm going to do now is basically just say that. So now I've put that through to it. So now it's telling me it doesn't have a Word doc agent created here, and to open Word with Claude, load it and ask me there. So now that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to go across here. I'm going to open Word. I'm going to go blank document, and let's put that to full screen, and then open Claude. So here's a Claude session. the same as it looks inside of Excel. I'm just going to put in here done. And this, because it's the same Claude account, should pull these insights and send it across to the Word doc, and it sent it now. And we'll come across here and you can see this Claude has kicked off in terms of actually going through, and it's going to put, I'm assuming going to put some, see I have permissions required on the Word document here. So let's allow that once. And there we go. There's our insights inside of the Word document. Now, that's obviously just gone and created its own formatting, its own structure, just because I gave it a simple prompt. But if you're pulling insights from Excel to some sort of report regularly, you can really see how a Claude skill will be able to do something like this extremely well now, given the connection across PowerPoint, Microsoft Word, and Excel is really, really cool. So that, I think, is actually a huge feature, being able to transfer stuff from one place to another. So I encourage you to have a play around with that. Now, I hope that was useful, and there's a ton more stuff you can do with Claude inside Excel, and really it's reframing it to be thinking about how can I get Claude to help me with this, and speeding up the workflows you do regularly there. Now, like I said, if you want to jump in and join Contract OS and get specific help on these with some of our weekly Q&A sessions, the link is down in the description. I'd love to see you in there. And other than that, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.